It's Sunday night, and somewhere across town, your competitor's sales team is dreading tomorrow. They're anxious about the Monday morning meeting. They're worried about their numbers, secretly hoping someone else takes the heat for last week's missed targets. They're not prepared, they're not excited, they're not ready. But your team, they can't wait. They're ready to kill, and they've been practicing all weekend, not because you forced them to, but because they're warriors who refuse to lose. They know exactly what Monday looks like because you've engineered a system so precise that excellence has become effortless. They're not just teammates, they're brothers and sisters in arms, bonded by shared sacrifice and mutual accountability. That's what a performance machine looks like. That's the team your competitors will fear meeting on Monday. But here's the question most people get wrong. What's the difference between these two teams? Most people will say talent, others will say product or compensation. Wrong. The difference is one person, the most important person in the company, and it's not always the CEO. It's what I call the sales boss. A sales boss is a sales leader operating at the top 1% of the industry, often known as the sales manager. Look, I've spent the last 20 years obsessed with a single question. What separates the top 1% of leaders from everyone else? I've personally observed over 25,000 individual sales calls. I've coached hundreds of managers. I've dissected hundreds of sales cultures, and I can tell you the data is overwhelming. The sales manager, the single greatest variable in team performance. It's not the product, it's not the compensation plan, it's not the quality of leads, it's the leader. In fact, 95% of CEOs in mid-sized companies once held this position. Why? Because sales leadership is the purest test of who you are. It forces you to think, to decide, to build, to inspire, to confront reality every single day, to be willing to sit in judgment. But let's start with an uncomfortable truth. Most sales teams are broken. The numbers will prove it. Sales representative turnover hovers around 35% annually. That's nearly triple the rate of every other profession. So if you have a team of 10, you're going to lose 3 or 4 of them this year. The financial impact of every bad hire ranges from 1 to 2.5 times their salary once you factor in recruiting and training, lost deals, the emotional fallout inside the team. But really, those statistics only tell the surface story. They say nothing about the private damage, the invisible cost of mediocrity, the weight of unperformance on a leader's spirit, the quiet rot that spreads through a culture that tolerates average. But what about the salespeople who stay, but they quit on the inside? The ones who do just enough to remain employed, but really never enough to move the business forward. The ones who drain the energy from meetings. You've met them. They poison momentum. They drag the culture to the lowest common denominator. And what about the leader who knows this, but avoids the conversation because they're tired, they're overwhelmed, they're afraid of losing one more body on an already thin roster, and they have their numbers to hit? Let me tell you, this is not a great place to live, and it is not leadership. This is survival. It's heroics, and heroics can't scale. Now, a hero could save a quarter. A hero can save a deal. A hero can keep the ship afloat another month, but a hero can't build a culture that will win on purpose. A hero can't create a system that performs without their presence. A hero can't develop people into leaders who carry the vision with them. Heroics create dependency. Leadership creates transformation. So how do most of these managers end up there? It's simple. They weren't promoted because they knew how to sell. It's simple. They were promoted because they knew how to sell, not because they knew how to lead. So they cling to what they know. They jump in on calls. They close deals for their reps. They work harder and harder, carrying the quota on their own backs while the team becomes more dependent and less capable. And what does this do to the human? Their sleep deteriorates, the patience disappears, their confidence erodes. And the damage, to be honest, doesn't stop at work. It follows them home. It shows up in missed dinners and forgotten promises to their family and the growing distance in their relationships. We've seen it 100 times, but I'm going to show you a different way. Over the next series of videos on this channel, I'm going to walk you through the complete operating systems for building what I call an unrecruitable team. It's the subject of my latest book. We're going to talk about how to engineer a culture so powerful that new members can't resist getting in sync with it. I call these sacred rhythms. They're the heartbeat of every elite team I've ever studied. I'm going to show you how to hire using behavioral DNA and predictive science instead of your gut feeling and hope. I'm going to show you how to onboard new people so they become part of the identity within 90 days, and how to lead in a way that makes you the thermostat, the person who sets the temperature instead of the thermometer, someone who just reads it. So if you want to build the team your competitors fear meeting on Monday, the team that can't wait for the week to start, it starts with one decision. You have to stop being the hero and you have to start being the architect, the sales boss. You have to become the kind of leader that A players refuse to leave. So in the next video, I'm going to tell you a story about my past that explains why I see leadership different, why I see human behavior differently than anyone else in this space. It involves a cult, a complete identity rebuild, and the most important lesson I've ever learned about how environments shape people. So subscribe so you don't miss it. And if this resonated, this is chapter 1 of my book, Unrecruitable. The book goes 10 times deeper. The link is in the description and it's pinned in the comments. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure to follow.